News360. We're live from our studios here, number 35, Jean Hammond Street in Accra. Good evening to you. I am Noble Crosby Annan.
And I am Grace Hamwajim on top of the bulletin tonight.
News360 Headlines is brought to you by Pepsodent Charcoal and Pepsodent Herbal.
EcoBank, Nero Prime Water.
This evening, with government's impending 2027 styrofoam ban, we explore stakeholders' readiness and the potential economic impact.
Ghana counts rising cost of galamsey as polluted rivers and silt threaten water treatment plants and clean water supplies.
This bulletin, as girls make major education gains, experts raise concerns as to whether the changing outcomes are creating new challenges for boys.
Also coming up, Central Gonja Hospital faces equipment shortages affecting maternal and child health outcomes.
Much later tonight, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney calls new U.S. tariffs a miscalculation as Canada prepares dollar-for-dollar retaliation after trade talks collapse. Welcome to the program. We're live also on all our social media platforms at TV3 Ghana. We'd love to hear from you there as we get interactive. Let's start the bulletin now.
Right, and Ghana generates about 1.1 million tons of plastic waste every year, roughly 3,000 tons every day. But only about 5% of this waste is ultimately recycled, leaving millions of tons to be discarded, burned, or potentially washed into drains and waterways. Government is set to ban polystyrene foam products, styrofoam, or takeaway packs from January 1, 2027. A move expected to help tackle Ghana's growing plastic pollution challenge. But with the deadline fast approaching, how prepared are consumers, food vendors, and manufacturers for the change? Anita Agbuta has more in this report.
One thing.
The way Ghanaians package food has changed significantly over the years. Victoria Ajukoshi has been a food vendor for more than 2 decades. Victoria has witnessed that change firsthand.
Na I'm over amakma. Emisejanano. I think go do me ba graphic zazanse blane.
In the past, we used leaves to serve food. Then we moved to graphic paper, and now we have moved to colored polythene bags and takeaway packs.
But over the years, convenience has changed the way food is packaged. Styrofoam packs are now a familiar sight at food joints, restaurants, and markets, offering vendors a quick and relatively inexpensive way to package meals for customers.
The pack va me prena paper toa na le se do ashi omo le flomo.
They don't patronize us when we use paper bowls, so we use rubber bowls together with takeaway packs. The leaves are also sometimes scarce, so we end up using takeaway packs.
Akava makma ha so coffee me tamsa la shima makbo de kronchita no one mangi akola kwa ajira nwai.
But convenience comes at an environmental cost. According to data gathered by 3 News Research, Ghana generates about 1.1 million tons of plastic waste every year, equivalent to roughly 3,000 tons every day. Yet, only about 5% of this plastic waste is ultimately recycled. Ghana's waste management challenge has been brought sharply into focus by recent flooding disasters. On June 29, heavy rainfall triggered devastating floods in parts of the country, with Greater Accra region recording some of the worst impact. The disaster displaced thousands of people, claimed lives, and left several others missing. It is this growing waste challenge that the government says the ban is intended to address. Acting Director of Sustainability and Circular Economy at the Environmental Protection Authority, Larry Koto, says the ban will be fully enforced.
We are currently drafting the regulation to back the policy directive. And some of the sanctions, yes, might be seizure, and then also you may pay for the cost of disposal as well. For manufacturers and importers who may want to illegally produce some of these items, we are still looking at the sanctions, whether to include some prison terms.
But the proposed ban has not been met without resistance. The Ghana Plastic Manufacturers Association has petitioned the government for an extension, raising concerns about the impact of the deadline on businesses within the industry.
Our position is that the 1st January still stands. They have enough time to make alternative arrangements. And then I must also say that most of them don't only produce styrofoam products. They have the other plastic streams as well. So it will not really impact their businesses as it's being portrayed.
We reached out to the association for a response to the EPA's position, but had not received one at the time of filing this report. But beyond government and industry, what do consumers think? And are they ready to pay for the alternatives?
If possibly, they can modify the leaves a bit for it to be used. It's burnable, you can burn it. It doesn't actually have any effect on the soil. Some countries have started using the paper bags. We can go into that too, so that it will sustain those who are actually into this polythene bag, selling of the polythene bag. They also go into this paper bag and then be using it. We can burn it when we finish using it.
I am for the ban, yeah, because social society, if you know, too much.
The field in Accra is too much. I think the ban is in the right direction.
With the deadline fast approaching, the countdown has begun. For government, the task is enforcement. For manufacturers, it is finding viable alternatives. And for food vendors and consumers, it is adapting to a new way of packaging food. But the styrofoam debate ultimately raises a bigger question. Can Ghana move beyond simply banning problematic plastics to building a culture of responsible production, consumption, and disposal? Anita Agbota, TV3 News.
Now, still on the environment and pollution, Ghana's illegal mining crisis is no longer only about polluted rivers and destroyed farmlands. The contamination is now hitting water treatment plants, with Ghana Water warning that hundreds of millions of cedis may be needed to restore heavily silted intakes across the country. So, beyond the value of the gold being extracted, what is Galamsey costing Ghana to keep clean water flowing? Wisdom Safo has more in this report.
The River Pra, for years, its brown color has been one of the clearest signs of illegal mining. But downstream, the pollution is making water harder and more expensive to treat. At the Daboase Water Treatment Plant in August 2026, raw water turbidity reached 11,955 NTU against a reported operational level of about 500 NTU, that is, nearly 24 times higher. At the time, only 2 of the plant's 4 intake pumps were reported to be operational. And Daboase is not alone. As a Himan, Ghana Water reported production of about 7,500 cubic meters a day against an installed capacity of roughly 30,000 cubic meters. That means about 75% of the capacity was unavailable. At Bonsa, the installed capacity is about 1 million gallons a day, but output had dropped to around 400,000 gallons before the plant eventually shut down. That is a reduction of about 60% before production fell to zero. But when a plant shuts down, it's not only about dry taps, it's about lost production. For a plant capable of producing 1 million gallons a day, a 3-week shutdown means up to 21 million gallons of potential production lost. And even when plants remain operational, the cost of treatment rises. Ghana Water says some affected facilities have had to switch from alum to more expensive polyelectrolytes, which are reported to cost about 4 times more. At some plants, chemical costs have reportedly increased by about 400%. Then comes the cost of dredging and rehabilitation. Ghana Water says emergency dredging at Owabi and Mampon had already cost 77.8 million cedis. Another 300 million cedis may be needed to desal major intakes across the country, and that excludes Barekese.
But when you take Barekese out, the others within about 300 million can undertake it. But some of them are 2 million Ghana, the 1.5. We have several depending on the depth of the silt.
At Barekese alone, Ghana Water estimates about 6 million cubic meters of silt at an estimated removal cost of 150 cedis per cubic meter. The potential cost approaches 900 million cedis. In July 2026, another 8.4 million cedis was committed by Gold Board and Ghana Water to rehabilitate Bonsa, Daboase and Secherehiman.
We are talking about major water treatment plants that, per the information we got from the Ghana Water Limited, are completely silted and cannot process, water for drinking purposes.
So the cost of polluted rivers is becoming more than an environmental problem. It is now a public finance problem. Ghana Water's proposed cost reflective figure puts the cost of producing, treating, transmitting and distributing water at about 20 cedis per 1,000 liters, or roughly 2 pesos per liter. But one important figure is still missing. How much does Galamsey add to that cost? The extra chemicals, the damaged pumps, the dredging, the rehabilitation, and the water that is never produced. Ghana may know the value of the gold coming out of the rivers, but it still does not know the full cost of keeping water coming out of the tiles. We know the value of gold. What is the cost of water?
Well, let's talk education tonight, because Ghana has spent decades trying to close the education gap between boys and girls. Today, girls have made significant gains and in some schools are increasingly taking the top academic honors. But does that mean the girl child is now outperforming the boy child? And as attention turns to that progress, is there something about the boys we may be missing? Safwa Boyne explores the changing gender story in Ghana's education system.
There was a time when Ghana had to sing the song. For many girls, getting into school and staying there was not guaranteed. Where resources were limited, the boy could come first. The girl could be needed at home. Early marriage or pregnancy could interrupt her education. And beneath it all were old assumptions about how far a girl really needed to go. So the response was deliberate. Education reforms, girl-child campaigns, affirmative interventions, more support from families.
I always said that when I came to the university in 2000, I could count the number of professors in the department were females. But today, the narrative is changing gradually. So we realize that now we go for graduation in many of our basic schools. And the number of girls who take awards, high. I was telling somebody, my daughter, their school, basic school, last 2 weeks, when they graduated class 4, all the 7 award winners were girls. And I'm told other classes the same thing. So it shows, therefore, that there seems to be this, change in terms of number of girls that are, having access to education.
And the numbers show how far that journey has come. In 1990, girls were significantly underrepresented, particularly at the junior secondary level. Today, primary enrollment has reached parity, and at JHS, the balance now tilts slightly towards girls. Research examining Ghana's education reforms over 25 years similarly concludes that the gender gap at basic school level has closed, even though inequalities remain beyond basic education. And at some schools, that change is now visible on the prize-giving stage. At Christ the King International School, headmistress Portia Phyllis Mensah says she has noticed a pattern in the classroom too.
The consistency in completing assignments, note-taking, preparation towards assessment, and even seeking clarity when it comes to concepts that they do not understand. You see the girls emerging. The girl child is outspoken. They mature 6 months earlier than the boys. And so you get the boys, delaying in that aspect. And the boy child feels that I should conceal my academic difficulty because of ego. They wouldn't want to ask so many questions in class.
But what we see at a few schools is only part of the story. The bigger test is what happens when we look across thousands of classrooms nationwide. A 2024 study examining Ghana's 2021 Primary 4 National Standardized Test found statistically significant differences favoring girls overall in both English and mathematics. Girls were ahead in both subjects in 6 regions, and in English in another 6. Boys recorded a significant mathematics advantage in only OT region. But Africa Education Watch says the national picture still needs much better gender disaggregated data.
We don't have data especially disaggregated by gender when it comes to learning outcomes, when it comes to completion, transition at JHS we have. You need to look at completion rates between boys and girls, then you can decide. You need to look at transition, which is I've mentioned JHS to SHS transition. You need to look at learning outcomes. In Ghana recently, we do not disaggregate performance by gender. And it has been one of our advocacy messages that disaggregate data so we know who is doing what, then we know where to target interventions.
For years, the question was how to give the girl child the same chance as the boy. The evidence suggests Ghana has made considerable progress doing that.
But there is an important distinction. A girl doing well does not necessarily mean a boy is doing badly. So perhaps the question is no longer whether girls have caught up. Perhaps it is whether, while celebrating that progress, we are paying enough attention to what boys themselves may be going through.
For Dr. Samson Obedapia, senior lecturer at the Department of Sociology, University of Ghana, part of that changing story may be the expectation society places on boys.
Because of the cultural value that the boy must become bold, he must take care of the family, many of them begin to see economic independence. So even if the person go to school at some level, let me go and find something to do to support the family. So for me, this is how the narrative must look at that. We shouldn't look at this as a competition. Their education is being affected. So you see why a lot of the girls will move ahead of them. So can we begin to identify these areas that where boys are being left out? We begin to encourage them so that they also see the need that they are not supposed to drop out and just enter into some trade to support the family. So as we are also doing for the girls to go to school.
In farming, fishing, and mining communities, those expectations can begin early. And for Ethel Ajaloloma, founder of Junior Shapers Africa, her interest in the boy child began with something she noticed firsthand.
An idea came to me to start a salon for girls. Whilst I was at the salon, parents used to drop off their sons with me as well. So they'll say, I'm dropping off my daughter, but my son is also with her. Take care of them. I'll be back. I realized the character deficits between boys and girls. I noticed girls could come to the salon and take a book and start reading. I had bookshelves. The boys would never do that. They'll be climbing from one point to the other, and I was like, how can I engage these boys productively? That's when the idea came to me to have an intentional mentorship program where I bring men on board.
Father absence, limited male mentorship, emotional struggles, and sometimes too much freedom wrapped in the assumption that boys will somehow work things out for themselves. Even though boys may be facing challenges of their own that require attention, the barriers facing girls have not disappeared, especially among poorer and marginalized communities.
When we are looking at some of these issues, yes, the national picture may look very nice, okay? But then let's go beyond the national picture. Let's look at district-specific data. I mentioned gender parity, for instance. At the national level, yeah, it looks nice. But when you go to deprived districts, you have issues there, especially districts in the northern part of Ghana. You have gender parity as low as 0.75. So it means that for every one boy, you don't have even up to one girl.
For the headmistress at Christ the King International, Even with girls taking many of the prizes, the picture in her own school is not one-sided.
We are not saying that we don't have the girl child struggling academically. Yes, we do have. Yeah. And you see, when the boys make it, they make it big time. But what I have seen is that even when the boy leads, those who follow are girls. And so you get the girls taking most of the prizes, but we still have girls who are struggling. My argument will be that let's support the individual child because they all have potentials.
So recognizing boys' needs cannot mean dismantling what helped girls get this far.
I think that affirmative action must be maintained there. We shouldn't also do it to denying the boys per se. But the truth is that if you remove it and say they should all come at the same level, there are cultural barriers still affecting the girl child at the basic levels. That's the fact. The menstrual thing, the issues about teenage pregnancy, which are still there. And you see, even though there's a policy now that girls who are pregnant can still go to school, the truth is that stigma is affecting a lot of them.
Years ago, Ghana looked at its classrooms, saw that too many girls were being left behind, and decided to do something about it. Today, those girls are showing us what can happen when opportunity meets deliberate support. Their success should not become a problem to solve. It should become a lesson to learn from. Because if some boys are now struggling, academically, socially, or emotionally, the answer is not to ask the girls to slow down. It is to ask what those boys need to keep moving to. Perhaps equality was never about ensuring that boys and girls finish in exactly the same place. It is about making sure neither is denied the chance to become everything they can be. Safa Boyne, TV3 News, Accra.
Send your girl child to school. Send your girl child to school.
Away from that, the International Monetary Fund's report on Ghana's domestic gold purchase program has sparked fresh debate over losses reportedly incurred in 2025. And while political actors disagree over who bears responsibility, stakeholders are calling for greater clarity and accountability over the program's financial impact. There's more in this report.
The International Monetary Fund's report on Ghana's domestic gold purchase program has generated mixed interpretations. The IMF reported that the Bank of Ghana, BOG, incurred over $1.7 billion in losses in 2025 through its domestic gold purchase program, DGPP. The IMF report noted that the expansion of the domestic gold purchase scheme weighed heavily on the financial health of the Bank of Ghana. According to the fund, these accounting losses largely stemmed from valuation dynamics and structural acquisition costs rather than a direct institutional failure. The minority NPP in Parliament claims the central bank recorded negative equity after Gold Board incurred losses amounting to 22 billion cedis from its operations. During the week, Minority Leader Alexander Penyomarking, addressing a news conference, called on Gold Board to account for the losses incurred through its gold trading operations instead of resorting to insult.
Gold Board must tell Ghanaians how much was earned by Gold Board in service and asset charges from transactions financed by Bank of Ghana. What commercial risk did Gold Board itself bear? What transactional risk were passed automatically to Bank of Ghana?
The accusation was swiftly responded to a day later by the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Gold Board, Sami Gyamfi, who took his turn at the government accountability series at the Jubilee House. In a fierce rebuttal, CEO of Gold Board, Sami Gyamfi, said the IMF's report clearly identified the domestic gold purchase program as the source of the losses rather than Gold Board.
I challenge Penyomarking to point to any page, paragraph, sentence, phrase, or punctuation mark in the said reference reports of the IMF where the Gold Board was accused by the IMF as the entity responsible for losses incurred by the Bank of Ghana.
Sami Jemfi mounted a spirited defense of his stewardship, saying he's ready to appear before Parliament.
Just get Public Accounts Committee to invite us and come and sit down there and come and demonstrate to the whole nation where the Good Board made losses or how the Good Board is to blame for losses made by another institution.
Speaking on the key point, Member of Parliament for Akwatia, Bernard Bediakumbedu, said the majority in Parliament has never opposed an attempt at parliamentary scrutiny of the operations of the Ghana Gold Board.
At no point did the majority resist any move for the Gold Board to be held accountable or to be brought to Parliament to answer any question. It didn't happen.
You didn't resist it?
No, we didn't. We resisted the vehicle. They said there should be a bipartisan, whatever, a 9-member. That was the content of the motion. That there should be a 9-member committee made up of NDC MPP go and sit, and then we said no.
For former High Commissioner to India, Mike Okwejenia, whether this $1.7 billion loss sits with the Bank of Ghana or the Ghana Gold Board, there is still a loss.
The money, whether it's sitting in the loss of Bank of Ghana or sitting in the loss accounting book of Gold Board, the value is the same.
The value is the same?
We have lost the money, 1.7. So we are trying to say that, okay, government, make sure that you give money to another entity to conduct a program where it's prudent. Am I lying? Because we want the government to make prudent decisions. We want the Bank of Ghana to use our money prudently.
Senior lecturer at the Department of Economics at the University of Ghana, Dr. Edu Owususa Akodie, says issues surrounding the so-called Gold Board losses have been over-politicized.
In fact, the bigger elephant in the room is the program itself, the benefits we are getting. That should be our focus on how to minimize the cost going forward. But we have spent so much time about apportioning blame, who is to bear the cost, is it sitting in the books of Gold Board, is it sitting in the books of BOG, etc., etc. However, if Gold Board is taking credit for the reserve accumulation, that is why the other argument is that if you are taking credit or you want to be part of the credit taking, then you should be blamed for the losses.
Also speaking on the key point, economic policy analyst Sanya Hosi says the losses associated with the domestic gold purchase program sits with the Bank of Ghana.
The central bank needs to come and explain to us how come, together with government, that matter keeps lingering. Because if we didn't have that, we won't have a lot of the losses that we have here.
The 1.7 billion.
You won't. Because how would Sami Jefi, you send Sami Jefi with money, that Sami Jefi should go and buy something, and he goes to the place, and the real rate is 12. Because if you decide to buy 11, it means that the people are taking a 10% haircut. They will not give you the gold.
Yes.
They will not give you the gold. And we truly don't have the security capacity for proper enforcement. So you create an economic incentive by paying him the 12. Now when you come and collect the 12, because of other policy considerations, you want to keep it and sell it at what? 11. You will naturally make a loss.
The debate over Ghana's domestic gold purchase program losses continues, with stakeholders offering different interpretations of who ultimately bears the financial burden. While calls for greater accountability grow, attention is now focused on parliamentary scrutiny and the need for clarity on the operations and financial impact of the program. Let's bring you the latest update on how the weather will be for the next 24 hours.
Weather News segment is brought to you by Syntex Tang.
Welcome back. This is News 360 on TV3. Let's do some more stories. Inadequate medical equipment, including blood storage refrigerators, continue to affect maternal and child health outcomes at the Central Gonja District Hospital. My colleague Christopher Maku has more in the following report.
Gonja District Hospital serves as the only referral facility in the district. Though the facility is less than a decade old, its equipment, particularly at the maternity unit, is insufficient to meet the needs of the increasing number of patients who visit the hospital. A shortage of essential medical equipment can lead to delayed diagnosis, untreated birth complications, and increased risks of death for mothers and newborns. With insufficient basic equipment, such as blood pressure cuffs, cardiotocography monitors, incubators, blood storage refrigerators, and resuscitation kits, health workers struggle to effectively manage emergencies. Mariam Kauribi is the maternity ward in charge at the Central Gonja District Hospital.
Back in 2023, the Central Gonja District recorded maternal mortalities of 7. Out of these 7, the Central Gonja District Hospital, we recorded 4 relating from complications of postpartum hemorrhage.
The maternity unit, for instance, lacks a blood storage refrigerator and relies on just one CTG monitor and one oxygen concentrator, despite the high number of maternal and child health cases it handles.
Getting this blood storage, designated blood storage on the ward is something that will go a long way to help the Central Gonja District Hospital with maternal and child health outcomes. We run a 24-hour lab services, but we get cases being referred to us with complications because of postpartum hemorrhage. How do we curb this situation?
Dr. Benjamin Bakar is worried that the situation could affect health outcomes.
Women came here, and because of the lack of those equipments, some had to bear the consequences. Some passed on, and we recorded high mortalities when it came to the maternal side.
To address these gaps, the hospital has been engaging stakeholders and soliciting support to improve its equipment and services.
The Nation of Maternal Health is part of the UN SDGs. And the second reason is that life actually begins from the maternity ward. So we thought it wise that these items, as they're going in to support maternal health, we believe that supporting this was a key initiative and something that was going to help improve the lives of the people of Central Gonja Hospital.
Despite receiving some support, the hospital says more needs to be done to provide the equipment required to improve maternal and child health. Target 3.1 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 3 aims to reduce the global maternal mortality ratio to fewer number than 70 deaths per 100,000 live births, while Target 3.2 seeks to end preventable newborn and under 5 deaths. For the Central Gonja District Hospital, bridging these equipment gaps will be critical to ensuring that mothers and newborns receive timely and quality care.
Even though the Central Gonja District Hospital has not recorded any maternal death related to PPH, however, for healthcare givers here at the Central Gonja District Hospital, government and other stakeholders in health will have to invest hugely in the healthcare delivery system. Until then, these healthcare workers will continue to work in dire situations to render their services to the nation. Christopher Marco, TV3 News, Bupe, Central Gonja District.
Now, the Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Ablaji Fagomashi, has reaffirmed government's commitment to making cultural heritage and ecotourism key drivers for Ghana's economy during a visit to the Bono East region. Well, during the working visit to the region, she warned against illegal land encroachment near tourist sites, stressing the need to protect Ghana's tourism assets and promote sustainable development.
The Bono East region stands as one of the country's most richly endowed tourism hubs. home to economic, natural and historic sites, including Kintampo Waterfalls, Fula Falls, the Boabin Fiema Monkey Sanctuary, the Tanoboasi Sacred Grove, and the Boyam Caves. The Bono East region serves as a key destination for ecotourism and natural heritage. The sector plays a pivotal role in driving revenue for both local communities and the nation as a whole. Tourism represents one of Ghana's top foreign exchange earners. The sector recorded 1.3 million international tourist arrivals in 2025, an increase from the over 1.2 million arrivals recorded in 2024. International tourist arrivals generated an estimated $4.34 billion in revenue for the country in 2025. The Bono East region receives tens of thousands of visitors annually, bringing crucial revenue to local businesses across the region. During her tour of the waterfalls and surrounding ecotourism infrastructure, the Minister for Tourism, Abla Jeffa Gomashi, highlighted the natural and cultural assets of these sites, which form the foundation upon which national tourism stands. She reiterated the government's commitment to making the sector an indispensable driver of job creation and community development.
We are focused on making tourism the strongest pillar for development of our country. Other countries have done it, and we want to do it too. We are lucky to have His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, who understands the power of having tourism in the same room with culture and creative arts, because this is heritage. It is culture. It is the tangible and intangible cultural heritage that is the pillars on which the tourism of Ghana stands. And Bono East, you have one of the natural resources that support our work, and we want to thank you for what you have done so far.
She urged residents and local authorities to diligently protect these heritage sites.
Let's work to come and see it.
As Bono East continues to assert its status as Ghana's central tourism powerhouse, the call to action remains clear. Protecting these natural treasures today is essential to securing economic prosperity of tomorrow. Belinda Tete, TV3 News, Ghana's central tourism powerhouse, Bono East region. Well, let's now come to the capital. Over 7,000 residents of Mamobi Kasua-Kuda in the Ayawaso North Municipality have raised concerns over plans to evict them to make way for a proposed 24-hour market complex. The residents, who say they have occupied the government-owned land for more than 50 years, insist they are not opposed to the redevelopment project, but want authorities to provide alternative accommodation before any eviction is carried out.
Plans to evict residents of Mamobi Kasua-Kuda to pave the way for a 24-hour market complex have reignited a long-running dispute over the redevelopment of the area. The residents are appealing to the authorities to halt the planned eviction until a acceptable resettlement plan is agreed upon. They say they support the development of the area but fear losing their homes, businesses and sources of livelihood without adequate alternative accommodation.
There should be a proper step because we are Ghanaians. Those that are sitting here are Ghanaians. They are not here as refugees. He has promised us that he's a father for all. And I know His Excellency Don Dramani Mahama is a Christian, purely 100% Christian. He doesn't bully people like that.
They call us for a meeting. We went for the meeting. They request for our desire. Then we want relocation. So now the relocation will go with so many things.
We are not litigating the land with them. They brought us here by expression of interest, which we went into an agreement with them for them to set up a market in 1973. They failed to make the market work. So the houses that we built with our money, definitely we cannot leave the houses ajar. We have to occupy them. And we have occupied them, and we became tenants for the assembly.
Many of the families living in the area say they have lived in the community for decades. with some tracing their residence there back more than half a century. The municipal chief executive for the Ayawaso North says, for now, the assembly can only assist the affected residents with water and electricity at their proposed relocation site.
I had to make us prepare and then purchase 10 acres of land at Ayukuma to ensure we are able to move them from the said land and relocate them to the Ayukuma land. That we have been able to secure. Currently, we are trying to get them electricity and extension and then accessibility to potable water. Hopefully by next week, God willing, I'm sure we are going to get it done and we will have no choice than to make them move.
He has, however, warned that the grace period given to the residents to vacate the land has elapsed, adding that the assembly will soon move in to demolish structures in the area.
It is open for now. Once the date given to them has elapsed, all we need to do now is to ensure what we have agreed to put on site, that is the electricity extension and water extension, should be in place, and that is it.
But the residents say they have petitioned the relevant authorities and are calling for dialogue and what they describe as a more humane solution. They want a resettlement arrangement that will protect their homes, businesses, and livelihoods before the redevelopment project begins. Joseph Armstrong, Good on TV3, Madina Kaswakuda, Accra.
Time now for a breather. We're back shortly with sports and more. Don't go away.
Baby loves moving, diaper keeps slipping. It is so frustrating. All round. Waistline all round fits so well.
It's on Friday night, Caleb Rinchi made his Premier League debut as Coventry City took on Arsenal. While the young Ghanaian was finding his feet in midfield, the people in Bichim, the place he grew up, watched with pride. And here are their reactions.
Maniaji, Ukrainian enemy. If we say Caleb, returning back to Premier League. Now, Denmark League, no. Now, you know, Konya share games in Ibi. Intimates over Premier League in the Manage, say the Premier League no over there. Benya Konya share any games weekends be with the Premier League in 1 year. Intimania Japas, Metis or buy and I'm about time to come in the first games, but Baby Shibi. I'm a name of Sotmokui.
Here, Niki Pibre, Nintikran, and mamma, maybe very boring. It's a baby of Wabano, the Niki Hopa, it's a my chrono. I didn't watch it. Here, Bonfire dinner chipas and the Bibia because come, my Kijan chipa. Nichipa, we grab a no minute, Pantan Bako, on a pump, and you may have a babu video in Yami. And then my mother said, "Number 7 had the first match from the suburb. I feel about new team war England. Jenna, and Nigeria said, and they ever offers and Nigeria, no meaning at man table back. The Empire Bonus said, Namiba Manawadi, na Prebia Manaquen. I was a premiership, quite different from other leagues. Was a premiership play speed. Nobody was a players baby Bakra. Omuntimi MPK or the team were good, but premiership or bread. When you say the first appearance, so far, yeah. Oh, I mean, Emma Wahua say, crew like became a preparation and also in the crew like Krabi. Now, a team and prayer, young player about the national team.
Well, newly promoted Hull City, they stand Manchester United on their return to the Premier League with 2 first-half goals giving them victory. Well, congratulations to Hull City and sorry to all Manchester United supporters. That's your sports. International news is up next.
On a foreign front tonight, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has said a fresh wave of U.S. tariffs on Canada is a miscalculation designed to hurt and divide us. After trade talks broke down late on Friday, Carney said he walked away from a deal because he was not prepared to compromise Canada's sovereignty.
And thank you so much for making time with us on News 360. That's our package for you tonight, but there's more news on our website, 3news.com. Please log on for more. I am Noble Crosby Annan.
And I'm Grace Hamwa.